maybe we can start. So, Tariq, would you like to say something in the beginning?
No, just to welcome our partners in Asia to this 12th edition of the DG Forum. So far, we have had very important discussions this morning in New York on the two topics of this edition of the DG Forum, focusing on how we are doing with regard to the implementation of the BAPA plus 40 recommendations, but also what are the challenges and the opportunities that are posed by the COVID-19 pandemic. So we look forward to the discussion with our partners in Asia, and also we will continue tomorrow our discussions with the plenaries when we will report on this discussion. So I will hand it over to you, Nozomi-san, to moderate the session. Thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you, Tariq. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, good morning, good afternoon. My name is Nozomi Iwama, once again, the Senior Director and Head of the Global Issues and the Development Partnership of JICA, Japan International Cooperation Agency. So I have the honor to chair this very important breakout session for the 12th edition of the DG Forum. Let me briefly explain the objectives of this session. And the 12th edition of the high-level forum of the Director General's Development Cooperation is about to stocktake and reaffirm the achievement and challenges to implement the BAPA 40 plus outcome documents. And secondly, to review the challenges and opportunities posed by COVID-19 on South-South cooperation and triangular cooperation, as Tariq has referred to. And also, this is very important, but last but least, to share the practical knowledge and experiences of South-South cooperation and technical cooperation, particularly in the context of the COVID-19, but also beyond, to achieve our common 2030 agenda. And for this session, after the plenary sessions, we would like to deepen our discussion. So that's why we have a meeting style meeting, not the webinar style, which is to say, like, it's open to, and every participant is eligible to raise the voices and share your opinions and experiences. But before doing so, I would like to invite the 5 very distinguished panelists for this session from India, Indonesia, China, and Singapore, and UNESCAP, the UNESCAP. And before going directly to the panel, I would like to briefly share what my takeaway from the plenary sessions briefly, because it was held very late at night for some participants from the different time zones. So I thought it might be helpful for setting the scene for the discussion. So the session 1 was chaired by the UNCTAD representatives, and to take a stock of the achievement since BAPA plus 40, and ILO and IFAD colleagues shared their accomplishment, namely the incorporation of the South-South cooperation and technical triangular cooperation into their respective strategies, and promoting and mainstreaming South-South cooperation through knowledge sharing, building partnerships, and advancement of effective methodologies of monitoring and evaluation. And they're also functioning as a facilitator of South-South cooperation or triangular cooperation, such as establishing a platform where the partners from different countries can interact and cooperate towards the advancement of their respective agendas. And representatives of the Argentina, the host country of the BAPA and BAPA plus 40, of course, emphasized that South-South cooperation is a way to finance and a fundamental ways to work with the UN agencies, and with more flexible rules and regulations and more systematized monitoring and evaluation, South-South corporations South-South corporations are necessary so that we can invite more private sector's involvement. And the session 2 was about the challenges and opportunities posed by COVID-19 and how South-South cooperation and triangular cooperation should be positioned in that context. And all the panelists shared that the COVID-19 is not a mere health crisis, but also socio-economic crisis, security crisis, and a humanitarian or humane crisis, and widen the financing gap to achieve the 2030 agenda up to $4 trillion US. And the South-South cooperation and the triangular cooperation have a significant role for knowledge sharing, capacity building, and resource mobilization, and to build back better and greener towards 2020 agenda. So also the crisis offers opportunities to change, such as a digitalization, improving institutional framework, or better partnership of all agencies so that we can make the knowledge, technologies, and innovations that can be regarded as global public goods available to all. So South-South cooperation has a potential to help addressing based on solidarity and multilateralism and promote innovation to narrow the gap. So that's my take. And I would like to invite His Excellency Akhilesh Mishra, Ambassador, Additional Secretary, Development Partnership Administration, Ministry of External Affairs, India. We are very much excited to hear your intervention. Please, Mr. Mishra.
My very warm greetings to all esteemed colleagues and participants in this panel from India. Let me begin by extending my very sincere thanks to UNOSSC, SSC, and JICA and Islamic Development Bank for very kindly hosting this very important consultation. This assumes special importance given the context of the corona pandemic, which is an unprecedented black swan event and a truly global crisis which has affected all of us. And that is why it is even more important for us to keep in touch and learn from each other's experience and share our knowledge and expertise. Friends, guided by the suggestion for guiding questions given by the DG Forum Secretariat, I wish to share 3-4 points based on our own experience in this corona situation. The first point that I observed was the importance of public messaging and communication with the public by the leadership. This was very, very critical for a country like India with 1.3 billion people, extremely diverse, multi-layered, various kinds of socio-economic disparities, governed in a federal structure, in a multi-party setting, and different states governed by different political parties with different their own political ideologies and local political interests. We were very fortunate to have a leader like Prime Minister Modi, whose charismatic connection with the public aligned 1.3 billion people with one common fight against the corona pandemic. I think in my 30 years of diplomatic experience, I have not seen this kind of voluntary public mobilization for a single cause. Secondly, friends, it was something unique to India that initially everyone thought that with initial lockdown, things will stabilize and the crisis will be under control. But as the crisis prolonged, we discovered that we have to cope with very large number of internal migration and movement of people within the country. And we had to deal with at the peak of the crisis, we had to deal with about 10 million people within India to be relocated and moved from one part of India to other part of India. The third unique aspect of our experience was that because we have a very large diaspora abroad, including a very large number of Indian students and Indian nationals who are abroad. So while we were dealing with the healthcare dimension of the crisis, we also had to deal with very large number of Indians who were stranded abroad. And it so happened that we are still dealing with the history's largest ever repatriation exercise. We have had to bring back close to 5 million people stranded abroad. And this was very unique because unlike the previous experiences where it was localized from the Gulf, one area, and then by air, this time we had to deal with about 100 countries and more than 21,000 flights, and the airlines, then naval operations, then land-based crossings. We had to deal with all ministries in India, all state governments within India, all embassies and consulates abroad, and also more than 150 countries abroad, their embassies in India. So this was a very, very heartening experience as well in terms of the spirit of cooperation, how everyone, every country, every government came forward and helped us. And we also had to repatriate about 110,000 foreigners who were stranded within India. So these three were very unique probably to India. Third and the fourth element is also something very like encouraging for us and worth sharing, is that when the corona pandemic struck us, that we were naturally not prepared, and we had a huge deficit of healthcare facilities and infrastructure, even medicines and PPEs and test kits. And the government of India used the initial lockdown period to plan very methodically and ramping up of healthcare systems. And at the same time, the dealing with the healthcare dimension of the crisis, our Prime Minister had the vision of giving India a positive mission to work on in terms of the Atma Bharat mission, making India self-reliant. And with a package of about $265 billion, about 10% of GDP. And it was thanks to that visionary drive to ramp up our facilities and manufacturing and see how the supply chains can be reworked, manufacturing process can be readjusted, re-engineered, that not only we were able to take care of the domestic requirements, but also we were able to provide corona-related medicines and test kits and PPEs and ventilators to 150 plus countries. And also in terms of the current drive for vaccine Maitri, India is in the forefront, being the largest manufacturer of vaccines. We have committed to about 9 million doses of vaccines to 55 countries, and also about 1.1 billion doses to COVAX scheme. And as of now, about 72 countries have been supplied with about 60 million doses of vaccine. We have pledged about $15 million to International Global Vaccine Alliance. I think I will stop here for the shortage of time. And on the issues of South-South cooperation, TRC, I think I can join back during the discussion. Is it okay with the chair?
Thank you very much. I mean, the number you have handled is so astonishing in terms of the repatriation operation and migration operation, and we can see this is not a health crisis but a socio-economic crisis. I mean, in reality, and I would appreciate your contribution to supporting the supply of the medical and pharmaceutical items all over the place. This is very important. Thank you very much, His Excellency. So I'll now hand over my mic to His Excellency Mr. Tauk Faisal Shah, Director General for the Information and Public Diplomacy, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, representing Indonesia. Floor is yours, His Excellency.
Thanks so much, Moderator Ms. Nozomi Iwama from JICA College, Excellency Achilles Misra, Ministry of External Affairs India, Ms. Eleanor Kang, Ministry of Foreign Affairs Singapore, Mr. Tian Lin Sitka, Ms. Wan Fen Sresta Putra, UNESCAP, Good afternoon to all of you, and good morning, perhaps some part of our regions. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies, participants, and gentlemen, it is a privilege, as I mentioned earlier, to be part of these speakers of these panels. And I also like to extend my sincere gratitude to the co-organizer, UN Office for South-South Cooperations, Japan International Cooperation Agency, and Islamic Development Bank for organizing this important event. My presentation will mainly consist of three parts. I will first outline one part of our national efforts, a national response to the crisis. A second part would be our efforts at regional, globals, and how we see it through the South-South cooperations. And the last part would be very much on the lesson learned that we accumulate thus far in responding to these issues. Clearly, colleagues, that you mentioned very clearly, this is problems that defies national boundaries. It is multidimensional in its characters, and it poses new challenges to international development cooperations, particularly in the effort to attain the targets of 2030 Sustainable Development Goals Agenda. It has impacted not only the health and economic sectors, but the pandemic also created havoc to almost every aspect of our life, including social, education, tourism, science, technology, and many other aspects that you may want to mention it. It is also a new issue for international relations, and because it creates so many uncertainties, we are facing the scarcity of information. Thus, it adds to the complexity in our response and in managing the crisis. Now, let me touch on briefly on our national response to the crisis. In responding to the pandemics, the government has been implementing a multidimensional policy approach. We try to strike a right balance between our approach in dealing with the health issue and also how to make sure that we will also focusing still on the economic measures. So it's very much try to create a right balance within the two. In the national context, we established the National COVID-19 Response and Economic Recovery Committee. This is served as a coordinating agency at the national level to synergize the efforts from relevant ministries and agencies. At the local context, the government of Indonesia, through the regional governors and mayors or regions, has implemented large-scale social restriction policy to control and at the same time ensuring economic activity can continue with strict compliance to health protocol. We're cognizant to the need to ensure safe travel for essential business at the regional level. We also have made some arrangement and agreement with some countries, what we call travel corridor arrangement. Countries that we sign agreement with include United Arab Emirates, China, Singapore, and Republic of Korea. Ladies and gentlemen, now I'd like to move to our efforts at regional and global level. Indonesia has been also very active to support the very issue of accessibility and affordance of the COVID-19 vaccines in its distribution through various multilateral mechanisms. Our foreign ministers currently serve as the co-chairs of COVAX Advanced Market Commitment Engagement Group. Indonesia also served as the chair of the Foreign Policy and Global Health Initiative in 2020 under the theme Affordable Healthcare for All. And in the context of South-South Cooperation Platform, the government is also very active in contributing to the efforts of tackling COVID-19 pandemic. We are focused at the moment closely to our neighboring countries in the Pacific regions. We have already provided some grant assistance to Solomon Island, Timor-Leste, and Fiji in December last year. Well, the grant assistance aimed to finance the procurement of medical devices to support those countries in overcoming COVID-19 pandemic. We also encourage the establishment of various regional and global resilience and preparedness mechanism especially in facing future pandemic through ASEAN arrangement, advancing WHO reforms. At the UN, Indonesia initiated 3 resolutions on public health pandemic. Furthermore, as chairs of the ASEAN Health Minister meetings for 2020-2022, Indonesia will continue to ensure the implementation of various ASEAN agreements in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. And now to the lesson learned. Ladies and gentlemen, as part of our concrete steps to continue the path of the Sustainable Development Agenda, there is an urgency to build a resilient health system that will impact the accelerations of economic recovery. Vaccine availability is, of course, utmost important. This is to build a resilient health system. Since every country does not have the same capacities to provide the vaccines, especially the less developed countries, it is crucial to ensure equitable access to vaccine worldwide. It is important for SSTC as a solidarity-based development cooperation mechanism to be a reliable platform in promoting the development and timely production of affordable, safe, efficacious vaccines and provision of therapeutics, as well as to ensure that they are distributed quickly, equitably, and easily accessible to all. Well, that's all that I can say at this part, and I look forward to our productive discussion. And thank you. I give back the floor to the moderator.
Thank you very much, His Excellency Mr. Teuku Faisal Shah, for sharing the Indonesian domestic responses, as well as the contribution to regional and global DBGs. And I think you're mentioning about the increasing preparedness and the resilience is one of the most important issues that we have to think about for the COVID, for the response of the COVID-19, as well as the beyond towards the achievement of the SDGs. And thank you very much. And I would like to now hand over my microphone to Mr. Tian Ding, Director General, Department of International Cooperation, China Development Cooperation Agency, JICA, China. So over to you, Mr. Lin Tian.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very pleased to join this 12th edition of DG Forum. Against the backdrop of the COVID-19 pandemic, it provides a great opportunity for the development cooperation practitioners to meet each other online and share the updates and anti-pandemic aid, reflect the impact to South-South cooperation and triangular cooperation, and further seek the opportunities for further cooperation. I really want to thank our host, JICA, UN Office for South-South Cooperation, and also the Islamic Development Bank. The ongoing COVID-19 is the most serious public health emergency we have faced. People in developing countries are facing severe challenges to their rights of survival and development. And all of us are confronted with great difficulties in implementing the 2030 SDG. Despite all these challenges and obstacles, but we also have witnessed the new vigor and vitality of South-South cooperation. We can see that developing countries have showed solidarities and helped each other in combating this virus. I strongly believe that though the pandemic posed big challenges, it brings about new opportunities. As Secretary General Guterres has said in the celebration conference of UN last year, that South-South and triangular cooperation must have a central place in our preparation work for stronger recovery. The world needs the close cooperation and great contributions to the global South and to build more resilient economies and societies and implement the Sustainable Development Goals. At the beginning of last year, when China is experiencing its most critical and hardest time in combating the virus, we have received strong support from the international community. Many of them are from developing countries, it is a very strong signal of South-South cooperation in combating the virus. It is deeply appreciated, and the friendship always be remembered. At the same time, we also launched an emergency humanitarian action, which involves the most intensive aid with the widest coverage since the founding of the People's Republic of China. We have provided personnel protective equipment to over 160 countries and international organizations. We also assist the countries in purchasing medical supplies from China. We shared our experience and treatment plans with the international community. We have sent 36 Chinese medical expert teams to 34 countries to share our experience and work with the local medical authorities and experts. Over 70 video conferences and technical exchanges were held, and our permanent medical teams in 56 countries has also gave play to their professional strengths and assisted in the pandemic control. For a long time, China has assisted other developing countries in a large number of public health facilities, such as hospitals, clinics, and health centers, which has played a positive role in helping the relevant countries to raise their ability to fight the virus. China supported WHO and other multilateral agencies. We contributed to in cash to WHO for advancing the anti-pandemic ability, as well as the public health system of developing countries. China has fully implemented the G20 DSSI, the Debt Service Suspension Initiative, with a total debt relief amount reaching $1.3 billion US. China has made the biggest contribution among the G20 members on debt service suspension. China has been acting on President Xi, his important pledge to make the vaccines a global public good that contributes to the vaccine accessibility and affordability in developing countries. China was among the first to join WHO's Access to COVID-19 Accelerator Initiative. We have joined and supported COVAX, and we committed to provide 10 million doses of Chinese-made vaccines through the mechanism of COVAX. And also China is providing vaccines assistance now to 69 developing countries and 2 international organizations. We have also decided to participate in the UN's Security Council's Group of Friends initiative. We have decided to donate 300,000 vaccines to UN peacekeepers around the world. We are also ready to work with the International Olympic Committee to provide vaccines to the Olympians. Ladies and gentlemen, the Global Development Partnership is an important part of the UN 2030 agenda. China is an active advocate and practitioner on this partnership. We have held dialogues and exchanges with the international institutions and the bilateral donors to explore and conduct a trilateral cooperation with an open and pragmatic attitude. Does inject a new impetus to international cooperation. We wish to work for a more equitable and balanced global development partnership. China upholds the principle of common but differentiated responsibilities and regards North-South cooperation as the main channel for international development cooperation, and South-South cooperation as its complements. And we urge developed countries to honor their official development assistance committee commitments on time and in full. We encourage developing countries to enlarge our South-South cooperation, and we believe that an international organization with UN at its core can play a bigger role. And of course, we also encourage the private sectors, those and social groups and charitable organizations to play a bigger role. Of course, we wish to steadily advance the triangular cooperation in the international development. We are very positive on that, and we take a very open manner to that. And also, we must also fully respect the will and ownership of the recipient country in the trilateral cooperation. Ladies and gentlemen, the COVID-19 pandemic poses a huge threat to the lives, safety, health, and well-being of people throughout the world, creating significant challenges for global public health security. Implementing the UN 2030 agenda remains a long and uphill journey. In the future, we will continue to uphold the vision of a global community of shared future raised by President Xi Jinping, and we will do everything within our means to promote cooperation and inject China's strengths into the global development. Of course, firstly, we need to continue to support developing countries in combating the virus. So we'll continue to provide PPEs and also help the developing countries to improve their public health systems. And of course, we will support WHO and other international organizations in playing key roles. Secondly, we need to promote implementation of UN 2030 agenda. The China's Belt and Road initiative should be more better integrated with the UN 2030 agenda. We will help other developing countries to restore economic and social development caused by this virus. And thirdly, we also need to strengthen solidarity, meet global challenges. China committed to firmly support multilateralism and take an active part in bilateral and multilateral dialogues and cooperation on international development. We will enhance communication and coordination with other countries and international organizations and discuss and advance triangular cooperation. Ladies and gentlemen, confronted by acute global challenges, we firmly believe that we will be able to defeat the epidemic and achieve lasting stability and peaceful development, as long as the international community should adhere to the principle that we always stick to: solidarity, cooperation, responsibility, action, partnership, equality, openness, inclusiveness, etc. China is ready to work with all parties to deepen South-South cooperation and explore the triangular cooperation so as to make the new and positive contributions to the realization of the 2030 agenda. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Tianlin, for a very comprehensive explanation of China's effort towards the response to the COVID-19, as well as your views on the solidarity and the resilience and the multilateralism is very important. I totally, fully agree with what you say. And now I would like to move on to the next presenter, Ms. Wangfen Srestanapura, Program Officer, Capacity Development and Partnership Section, United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and Pacific, to share her views. So, Ms. Wangfen, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Nozomi, and good morning, I think, for many of you. Good afternoon for some. So, Your Excellencies, distinguished panelists and participants, ladies and gentlemen, firstly, thank you very much to UNOSSC colleagues and JICA and the Islamic Development Bank for this opportunity to address this important gathering representing the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and Pacific. As many of you may be aware, we have a similar Regional Directors General Forum in Asia Pacific, which UNESCAP established jointly with UNOSSC and the government of Thailand in 2018. The forum provides a regional high-profile platform for Directors General from the Asian and Pacific countries to share experiences, lessons learned, and good practice in South-South and triangular cooperation. Last November, ESCAP, together with UNOSSC, Asia Pacific Office, and the governments of Thailand and Indonesia, held the third session of the Asia Pacific Directors General Forum for South-South and Triangle Cooperation, in short, the Asia Pacific DG Forum. In the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, our forum naturally focused on the role of South-South cooperation in building back better from COVID-19 in Asia and the Pacific, as an overarching theme closely related to the theme of today's forum in a global setting. Our forum attracted directors general and other key stakeholders from 23 countries across the region and provided an opportunity to discuss the national, sub-regional and regional good practices towards building back better from COVID-19 through South-South. Discussion at the forum, which are summarized in our summary report available from the event page, which I will just share the link to in the chat, essentially underscore the importance of three main points. Firstly, the crucial need to leverage regional, sub-regional and national cooperation for greater access to information and innovation on South-South cooperation support. The need to promote exchanges of South-South and triangular cooperation good practices, knowledge and experiences, including to maximize and scale up the use of existing regional and sub-regional cooperation mechanism and knowledge platforms to achieve greater effectiveness, such as the annual Asia Pacific Forum on Sustainable Development, which ESCAP leads, the Asia Pacific DG Forum, which I just mentioned, and of course the global UNOSSC South-South Galaxy Portal, or even platforms such as the SDG Help Desk, which ESCAP established, and it's a one-stop online services providing access to knowledge products, data portals, and expertise and opportunities to advance South-South cooperation as well through different thematic areas. The forum that we held last November also underscored the importance of better aligning and matching available resource with the needs in the region, both of providers and beneficiaries of South-South and triangular cooperation. The forum recognized that South-South cooperation, along with North-South and triangular cooperation, would remain one of the central modalities to drive the implementation of the 2030 agenda and build back better from the pandemic. To inform the discussion at the forum, it is worth mentioning that ESCAP had prepared a background paper precisely on the role of South-South cooperation in building back better from COVID in the region. It's also available from the event page of our forum. The paper attempted to assess the role that South-South cooperation and triangular cooperation played in the response to and recovery from the pandemic. It places an emphasis on the vital importance of multilateralism and regional and sub-regional cooperation in light of the pandemic and the role of the UN globally and regionally as a facilitator and coordinator. In addition to providing an overview of where the region stands in terms of responding and recovering from the pandemic, the paper also brought forward recommendations to further support solidarity and cooperation and promote South-South in line with the ESCAP framework, which ESCAP had developed mid last year as a region-specific socioeconomic response to COVID-19 framework, which ESCAP developed to structure its response to country in the region. Now, in response to I think your second guiding question on the role that South-South, on the role that international and regional institutions play, especially through South-South, let me refer again to our discussion during our recent forum, in particular the session 3, which benefited from the participation of 7 sub-regional organizations in Asia Pacific, including ASEAN, SAARC, the Pacific Island Development Forum, and a few others, and focused on regional and sub-regional response, promoting South-South cooperation in addressing COVID-19. And here again, the good practice shared by our participants and representatives of regional and sub-regional organizations in Asia Pacific demonstrated the inspiring acts of solidarity that the devastating pandemic compelled all to take. For example, the Pacific Island Development Forum mentioned ramping up targeted South-South cooperation COVID-19 response program and facilitating funding to its member states, or the SAARC Secretariat setting up a COVID-19 emergency fund. and facilitating ministerial meetings in health and trade, and also disseminating COVID information through the SARC Disaster Management Center. We also had reference to, of course, the ASEAN COVID-19 Fund and many more such good practices. Allow me just now briefly to cite a broad example shared during our forum by our Deputy Executive Secretary on behalf of the United Nations Regional Collaborative Platform, the RCP in Asia Pacific, with regards to the work of 5 issue-based coalition in the region that serve as the de facto response unit to the pandemic in areas such as climate change, resilience to future crises, inclusion and empowerment, and gender equality and human rights, and also mobility. So finally, with regard to the way forward for South-South and triangular cooperation in the region in the current context, would just highlight some of the next steps being considered at the moment in our region, as a follow-up to our 3rd Asia Pacific Forum. As the participants of our 3rd Asia Pacific Forum entrusted UNESCAP and UNOSSC to further, and development partners involved naturally, to further review regional and sub-regional mechanisms in support of that cooperation, and to bring these to the attention of member states at the 4th Asia Pacific DG Forum for South-South and Triangular that we hope to hold later this year. Therefore, to maintain the momentum, UNESCAP will continue to work jointly with UNOSSC and other development cooperation partners in the region, and aims to scale up South-South and triangular cooperation, in particular for the benefit of least developed, landlocked and small island developing states in Asia Pacific. And UNESCAP aims to undertake an assessment of the specific capacities, needs and priorities of member states in the region with regard to South-South, and to facilitate more tailored assistance provided by middle-income countries to the needs of beneficiary countries. And we'll work with partners, as mentioned, for this next 4th Asia Pacific Forum for South-South that we hopefully which will hopefully coincide with the Global South-South Development Expo in late in 2021. So I thank you very much for your attention. I'll be happy to entertain any question, if any. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wan Fen, for the very comprehensive and rich explanation and sharing of the Asia Pacific DZ Forum, which is held in last November. And I totally agree that the regional and sub-regional organizations definitely will play a big part and role in the promotion of the South-South cooperation and the triangular cooperation, because originally the South-South cooperation has stand on the solidarity and similarity of the situation that the developing countries has shared. So having said that, I would like to invite our last panelist from Singapore. Let me find the Miss Eleanor Khan.
Hello.
Deputy Director of the Asia Pacific Program at the Singapore Ministry of Foreign Affairs Technical Cooperation Directorate. So, Ms. Khan, floor is yours.
Okay, good afternoon, Excellencies, distinguished DGs and panelists, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I'd like to express our thanks to the organizers, JICA, UN Office of South-South Cooperation, and the Islamic Development Bank for organizing this important forum in the midst of the COVID pandemic and giving Singapore the opportunity to be part of the panel. Today, I will be presenting on Singapore's South-South and triangular cooperation in the context of the COVID-19 crisis. The COVID-19 pandemic has had a huge negative impact on many countries. It has posed severe health and socio-economic challenges and reversed SDG gains in many developing countries. Singapore believes that South-South cooperation and triangular cooperation is critical for global COVID-19 recovery, and stands ready to work with fellow South countries and international partners to limit the global spread of the disease. To date, Singapore has made more than $15 million of in-kind and monetary contributions to support fellow developing countries' efforts to fight COVID-19. We support vaccine multilateralism and the fair and equitable distribution of vaccines to all countries. Singapore has also not imposed any export bans and has worked to maintain connectivity across the region. Aside from these contributions, Singapore has continued to run capacity building programs for fellow developing countries through the Singapore Cooperation Programme, or SCP. Singapore benefited from the help of international organizations and developed countries when we became independent in 1965. As Singapore progressed, we decided to set up the SCP in 1992 as our way of giving back to the international community. The SCP's focus is on human resource development, as we believe that this is key to nation building and essential for sustainable development. The SCP also respects the principles of South-South cooperation, such as non-conditionality, equality, and mutual benefit. Our programs serve as a platform for Singapore and participants from fellow developing countries to share experiences and best practices based on our respective circumstances. Here are some facts and figures on SCP. With the outbreak of COVID-19, international travel was severely curtailed. Nonetheless, we remained committed to South-South and Triangle cooperation. So we transitioned from in-person courses that were typically 5 days long to e-learning courses. We're thankful for the support of SCP's network of national focal points from developing countries who had continued to disseminate our course information and nominate suitable participants despite the pandemic. We are also grateful for the support from our SSTC partners like JICA, UNDRR, and UNEP for helping to convert in-person courses to online courses. Since our first e-learning course in August 2020, we have welcomed close to 2,000 participants to our online programs. Our courses cover topics such as COVID-19 management, sustainable infrastructure, and other areas which could aid post-COVID-19 recovery. And we have been heartened to see that our online courses continue to have a strong and enthusiastic participation from government officials of developing countries. The shorter duration and online modality have also made it easier to reach out to more participants, including senior participants who previously did not have the time to travel to Singapore. Next slide, please. In our pivot to online courses, we have had to overcome some challenges. For example, we have had to adapt to using new and unfamiliar technology, which was not previously used on a regular basis, such as Zoom. And we have worked with our trainers to provide clear instructions to participants prior to the start of the programs to ensure that they can use new platforms. We have also tried to help our participants to overcome poor internet connectivity and other technical issues. Coordination over different time zones has also been a challenge, and as far as possible, we have tried to pick a suitable time to run the programs based on the time zone of the target participants. In place of in-person interaction, we have also had to think of new ways to engage participants by using polls, games, and breakout rooms for discussion. Nonetheless, online fatigue has proven to be a real challenge, and we have tried to mitigate this by keeping all our sessions short, yet concise and comprehensive. We review our course offerings every year to ensure that the themes and content are relevant to the needs of developing countries. They will also continue to be tagged to relevant SDGs. Going forward, the theme for SCP in 2021 is Recovery, Resilience, and Reinvention. It reflects an impetus to adapt to the new normal brought about by the pandemic and our efforts to support governments to strengthen capabilities and enhance resilience. We will continue to promote the exchange of best practices and sharing of experiences in managing the pandemic, and as well as our efforts to reskill our workforce and future-proof our systems for an increasingly digital world. The SCP will also continue to offer courses on climate change mitigation and disaster risk reduction. The COVID-19 pandemic is a stark reminder of our interdependence and the need for all countries to work together. We hope that the SCP can continue to play a part in SSTC and help fellow developing countries achieve the SDGs. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ms. Khan. As you can see in my bio, actually, I was in charge of Thailand and Malaysia and Singapore, and together with you, we shared, collaborated with the part of the SCP together to provide to the third countries training program. So it reminds me at the time, like 5-6 years ago, and I was well updated that your current effort, like, use the online technique for the full delivering their cooperation into the world and very important challenges. And thank you very much for your presentation. And I would like now to open the floor and question and answer and the discussions and comment or the shared observation by all the participants. So if you could please raise your hands or write in your question in the chat, I will ask the distinguished panelists for answering or responding to that. But before speaking, please identify yourself by saying country, organization, your name. So is anybody would like to raise your questions or comments to the panelists? Sorry, my video is off, but I cannot find my video.
Nozomi-san, this is Tariq speaking.
Yes.
No, I'd like to thank very much our distinguished panelists for sharing with us the national experiences and how they have dealt with this really challenging pandemic. And I see two aspects of the experiences of the countries that have spoken today. One of them is with regard how how they have and some aspects, important aspects related to the governance, or what our colleague from Indonesia emphasized, multidimensional policy approach, and how to deal at the same time with the health crisis, but at the same time, how to tackle issues related to the social and economic fallout and recovery. I think this is an important experiences from the countries of the Asia region that could be replicated, could be shared with other countries, and we have seen that happening because so many countries in the region have become really a reference when it comes to how to the aspect, as I said, managing the crisis and how to deal with different aspects that were really very challenging for globally. And these experiences not only were a reference for the countries of the South, but even for the countries of the North. And the other aspect is related to the manifestation of solidarity that these countries in the region have shown from the beginning of the pandemic, but also now as we are moving toward this phase of the vaccination. I think this is a fantastic manifestation of solidarity and cooperation with other countries. So that's why I have one of the questions that I'd like to ask our distinguished panelists, because it was also raised this morning, as this is with regard to the public-private partnerships, and especially when it comes to aspects related to health, and more specifically on the development and the production, and even I would say even the dissemination of the vaccine. So if they can, if any experience to be shared, any aspect that could be also highlighted when it comes also how these experiences can be shared with other countries of the South and even of the North, because if, we are open to all kind of collaboration, to all kind of cooperation that can contribute to facing challenges such as the COVID-19 pandemic, but also how we can further the implementation of the SDGs. But I think more specifically, if the distinguished panelists can share with us any aspects related to the public-private partnership in dealing with the crisis, but most importantly on the issue of the vaccine. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tariq, for your observation and the questions. And maybe I should ask all the panelists for their responses. Firstly, from His Excellency Mr. Mishra, can you please share your views?
Thank you, Excellency. In India, there is a saying that the real charity is not when you donate food after you have eaten. The real charity is giving food to others when you are as hungry as the other person is. Friends, that is the spirit in which the government of India looks at the South-South cooperation. That is because India is not a donor country. We still have huge domestic developmental challenges of our own. But the South-South cooperation and development partnership with fellow developing countries originates from the shared experience of fighting against the colonial powers. And also Mahatma Gandhi's first-hand experience of what he saw in South Africa and came back and led our independence movement. That led to a very genuine belief that India's independence and India's struggle for economic empowerment is only a part of a larger process. And also the traditional cultural ethos where Indian people, Indian sages, since time immemorial, they believed in the world as one family, and also praying for happiness for everyone, not just individuals. So that's a broader vision of a community and well-being and prosperity. So that drives the spirit of India's cooperation, even while we have huge challenges of our own. The development part with other developing countries started even before India became independent in 1947, before our independence in 1947. And friends, traditionally the program, development cooperation program partnership has been G2G, government to government, bilateral, with very little triangular cooperation. But we are very happy that we have had some very encouraging experience, and UN Office of South-South Cooperation is our good partner, and UN Office of South-South Cooperation actually hosting two of our flagship triangular partnership events, India Brazil South Africa Fund and India UN Development Fund. These are working quite well. We are very encouraged and very appreciative of UNOSCC's support in these two important programs. Also, we are increasingly open to discussing triangular cooperation with other countries. I'm very happy to share tentatively that DPA and our Ministry External Affairs, we are having quite close consultation with partners like in USA, the DFID, JICA, European Union, and a number of other partners. So we are quite seriously exploring opportunities for TRC. And in the post-corona pandemic situation, I personally feel, as in charge of development partnership from Indian side, I feel that corona has hit us so badly, and it has hit us all. Therefore, whether countries in the north, countries in the south, we all are facing resource crunch. We are all facing prioritizing resources towards domestic development, employment recovery and employment generation within the countries. So therefore, there is a resource crunch globally for development partnership, development activities in the developing countries. Particularly the less developed countries are most acutely vulnerable. And therefore, I feel it is extremely important, ever more important for us people who are engaged in development partnership, this DG forum, for all of us to have even more close consultation, live consultation, dialogue, sharing of ideas, so that our efforts are harmonized. and at least any duplication in any country is avoided, deconflicted. This is very critical. Secondly, also the resource crunch, sometimes crisis provides opportunity. So I think because of the resource crunch, we have a push and pull both to go for innovative financing of development partnership activities. To the PPP model and also co-financing opportunities, including TRC and North-South cooperation for development projects in other developing countries, particularly LDCs. I think this is a multiple forces push us to go for more substantive arrangements in this direction. And I'm very happy to share that in the recent Quad initiative, Quad leaders meeting, there was some discussion on joining forces and pooling in our unique capacities to expand safe and affordable, effective production and equitable access of vaccines. I think that would be a model for us to explore. In the way forward, I feel Corona situation is still evolving. The crisis is not over yet, and trajectory is really quite uncertain even at this point. Therefore, there is need to continue consult and share experiences. And from Indian side, our Prime Minister, Honorable Modi ji, and Foreign Minister Dr. Jaishankar, they are spearheading highest level political consultation. More than 100 counterparts they have had consultation with them on development issues, and particularly Corona and vaccine and pharmaceutical availability. And also Corona has, but besides the highest political level, we at the technical level need also a similar regular dialogue, because we will have to come up with specific ideas, specific proposals, and put up to our leadership for consideration. Second point, friends, is that Corona has, in a very short period of time, forced upon us a behavioral change. So we are now getting to a new normal in terms of working, in terms of innovating. So as the chair had mentioned in the beginning, that the digital solutions that we are using now, they provide fascinating opportunities to transform and rejig how we have been providing development assistance to other countries. So those innovative solutions that each of our countries are incorporating for their domestic development could also be relevant for many of our developing country partners. So if there could be some platform for sharing of innovation that is happening in each country on the panel, that would be very interesting, very useful for us to share from your experience, particularly how Singapore has been dealing with this issue, or Indonesia or Japan has been dealing with this issue, how you are innovating digital solutions. They could be relevant for all of us. And we are exploring, as I mentioned, that we are seriously exploring opportunities for triangular cooperation with keep the interests of the developing partners in mind. And I'm also very happy to share that our Foreign Minister, being a Foreign Service Officer himself, and also our Prime Minister, Honorable Modi ji, they give us a very, very proactive, very open-minded leadership. So this is for us in DPA, in MEA, this is a great opportunity, historic opportunity to come up with new innovative solutions which help the global community. And we will be very, very welcome, very delighted to welcome specific ideas, specific suggestions for working together from esteemed friends in this panel. And I'll be very happy to have a discussion after this webinar also. Thank you.
Thank you very much, His Excellency, Mr. Mishra. I really share that the resource crunch issue is all over the places, including Japan, and we have to, we have to seek the careful balance between the, response for the domestic problem, as well as to, to support the other countries so that we can raise the solidarity and, that is going around. And we, I totally agree that there's a push and pull for the changing the global system, or so that we can make the best use of the available resources, technologies, and innovations as well for for solving the challenges ahead of us together, no matter whether it's north or south. And also, digitalization is also important, and we are forced to use like this online meeting. 1 year before, this was not like this. This is totally new to us, and we are quite used to that. But the last night, the one representative for, I think it's from the UNDP, she was saying, like, somehow we are quite used to use these technologies, and we can reach extend the outreach through this technology. But there are definitely the most vulnerable people tend to be left behind. So we have to think through how we can left no one behind through the digital technologies, the digitalizations, so that we have to, in the way of achieving the 2030 agenda. So and I would like to turn my mic to His Excellency Mr. Teok from the Indonesia for the same questions. If you have any reflection on that, please.
Thank you so much for Mr. Tariq Izikaran for the question raised. As we already observed, this COVID-19 pandemic is affecting us all. Each of the countries develop their lesson learned from their trial and error efforts to deal with the issues. Indonesia is rather unique considering we are an archipelagic countries. So the challenge that we must to confront this pandemic and also to mitigate the problems, also on how we try to have a concerted effort at the national level. I think it's for that reason that we do the role of the committee at the national level in coordinating with all the sub-committee at the regional or major level is very important, because we cannot cater to the efforts at all levels because it's islands or government at the sub-district level also have their own challenge. We cannot apply the measure at national level at all costs to the regional level. So there is a certain level of flexibility at the regional level to try to address the issues. They can apply the policies to open or to limit the activities based on their assessment at the level of the pandemic itself. We are still not reached the level of be successful in managing the COVID, but we already apply the vaccination activities. So we are hoping this is increase the confidence among the publics for continuing with the economic activities and social activities. We see the lesson that when we apply the very strict closed down policy, then we see the number of poverty level increase and the social impact with the society. That is the reason why we continue to combining the policy of promoting economic activities while putting health consideration also at the forefront. So it's the issue of try to find the right balance within the two policies. I think we look at the 2021 more optimistic, that the economic also seeing a movement. Hopefully this will be a positive growth that we can experience for the 2021. But at the same time, we also see the problem affecting all developing countries is even worse, because some of the island countries that we observe in the Pacific, for instance, relying a lot on tourism, we'll have the problems to instigate economic activities. Similarly to the Bali, for instance, an island very much dependent on tourism activities. They face a big challenge in moving forward the economic activities, because we have less tourism coming from overseas. So the challenge is now how to encourage people to have a more tourism at the national level, moving around from initially they travel overseas, but now we encourage them to conduct activities within Indonesia but applying a very strict rules of COVID pandemic protocol. So we are still in the learning stage, not reached the curve yet, and we can take a very general lesson learned among the provinces and other islands in Indonesia, but we still can say that we are in the stage that we are quite optimistic that we can move forward with the economy growth this year, and by doing so, we can also have enough capacity to contribute to other developing countries. We are committed in terms of our development assistance programs. Trilateral approach is still very important, but we need to be more targeted because we have a lesser capacity to contribute in terms of development assistance. Therefore, I think we apply a lot of planning at this stage for year 2021 and year 2022. When it's come to vaccinations, our policy is very clear that access to vaccine is essential to any countries because it's the countries who develop and have enough resources. They're the one who can make early advance procurements for this vaccine. That's why the multilateral approach is very important. We try to empower our center of excellence. We have the biopharma in Indonesia, who have the capacity to produce vaccine in close cooperation with other partners, with China, for instance. We try to boost the capacity of biopharma to enable to meet the demand of vaccine at national level, and also how we can improve and increase the capacity to try to be the hubs of vaccine at the regional level. This is long-term projections, but in the meantime, at the national level, we also have the research center try to develop our own vaccine capacity with the hope at certain state, not only we can meet the demand at the national level, but we can also contribute to other countries which is in need. As I mentioned earlier, we have last December, provide assistance to neighboring countries who are affected by COVID, but we, in this regard, provide cash transfer. So we leave to them to decide based on their basic need at the moment to deal with COVID. But at the same time, we also encourage the private sectors to be able to support the governmental efforts. And there are some big companies in Indonesia who have the social responsibility to also share some of the medical supply to countries within our regions. So I think that is very much that I can share at this stage. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Tianlin, would you like to say something on the same questions?
Yes, thank you very much. I believe this is a very good question because China has been conducting foreign aid and international development cooperation for more than 70 years. And last year we have just celebrated the 70th anniversary of our foreign aid. And among these 70 years, China's foreign aid and international cooperation are mainly done through governmental channels. It is bilateral cooperation or multilateral cooperation. But in recent years, we do have noticed that the private sector is now playing a more and more important role in international development cooperation, of course, in the South-South cooperation and the triangular cooperation. For example, there are many Chinese companies are working outbound, overseas. When they are conducting their contract in the recipient countries, they have also made contributions to their community, like providing health and education and medical service, agricultural service, food assistance to the local community, especially when they are faced with severe challenges like natural disasters and earthquakes, floods. Especially in this kind of situation, you can see that the Chinese private sectors is playing a very, very unique and positive way in doing that. Sometimes I should confess that they have even more efficiency, better efficiency than the government has. For example, last year when the world is facing with the challenges of spread of the COVID-19 virus, Alibaba Group has been providing assistance to many African countries with PPEs and other facilities. I should say that they are playing a very important role in this. And now the Chinese government is also paying more and more importance to the partnership between public sectors and private sectors. For example, China has established a fund called South-South Cooperation Assistance Fund. And this fund can work together with the Chinese enterprises and NGOs to work together to conduct foreign aid projects in our fellow developing countries. We have already started this kind of work. There's a satellite service company called Star Times. We are working together with them to provide assistance to more than 20 African countries to get accessibility to satellite TV. So more than 10,000 villages from more than 25 African countries has benefited from that. So this is a very good example of private and public sector's partnership. I thank you very much, and I believe that in the future we will make use of the South-South Cooperation Assistance Fund and maybe through other means to further promote this kind of partnership. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for raising the issue of the public and private partnership. I think it's very important, and I recall that when we talk about the 2030 agenda, the resource mobilization was one of the most critical and important issues. And we have been discussing, but we are still a lot of way to go in this regard, in mobilization of finance and the mobilization of the private sector into the development agenda. So thank you for raising this. And I would like to now invite the Ms. Wang Fen to respond to the questions, if you have anything. Is she around?
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm
okay.
Here. Thank you. From the perspective of UNESCAP, of course, this issue of exploring new partnership was very much referred to in many of our presentations. I'm still referring to our third Asia Pacific Forum, and definitely this, the whole COVID was really referred to and is well known as an accelerator of trends, of mega trends, and there's no denying that in the same way as we all agree that the 2030 agenda is at such a scale and complexity that it needs a whole of society approach, and similarly to respond and recover from the pandemic and in general taking South-South cooperation forward. There is a clear recognition that all partners and all the whole society approach is definitely required, and in this respect we definitely need very much the network and the capacities of the private sector. So it's a very general response. It was definitely featured in our discussion. And I mean, the importance of exploring new types of partnership and working closely with the private sector. So I would say that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kang from Singapore. Would you like to say something?
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak. I think from pandemic management, from the experience with COVID-19, it's very clear that in order for a country to respond effectively, you need to engage all stakeholders. So that includes government agencies, the private sector, as well as the population. So from our perspective, we have already been, as part of the entire pandemic response, we already worked together with private clinics at the community health level to help to do disease surveillance. And right now in the vaccine rollout stage, we are also working with private healthcare providers to ensure that the vaccinations can be rolled out safely, effectively, and speedily to all the all the residents in Singapore, including not just Singapore citizens, but all people who are living in Singapore will be able to get the vaccine on time and to the priority groups first. So I think our perspective is, as a small country, has never been we have never looked at the government as being the single source of manpower and resources to implement policies and to get things done. Because for small countries, you really have to work and try to mobilize all the people, your entire population to work together. During the pandemic, we rolled out the tracing app and even app called Safe Entry. So like shopping centers and shopkeepers, stall holders, everyone had to come together and ask their customers to please check in and show that you have been at my in my shop, at my premise, to enable us to have that effective contact tracing. So we have been sharing this experience in the various programs and courses that we have run, including with the upcoming course that we will be running with JICA on how to infectious disease control and outbreak. And we would also welcome other opportunities to collaborate with other countries, including India, on how we can best share our experiences in bringing together all different stakeholders in the society to respond effectively to the pandemic. And then on the issue of how to boost trade to recover from economic impact, as you know, Singapore is really a small and open economy. So we have continued to champion the cause of free trade at a time when actually there's increasing protectionism in the world. And we have continued to ensure that goods move safely and effectively through Singapore to the region and to the rest of the world by facilitating shipments through our port as well as through our airport. So I think that basically all countries need to think about how we can work together to reduce the costs of trading in situations such as now, so that our private sector can move their goods out in a more cost-efficient way at a time when really we are all looking at how to reduce the bottom line. Well, that's my thoughts on this. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for touching upon the trade issues. I have got two questions in the chat box, which I would like to go another round for the panelists. And the one is, it's a general question to the panelists, and from Asia's experiences and lessons learned during the COVID-19 crisis, what are some views on what development cooperation should be like post-pandemic? What needs to be improved so we are more effective in South-South cooperation? That is one question. Another question is related to the trade issues. And the other areas, one of the areas highlighted yesterday in the plenary sessions was the need to boost trade to recover from the economic impact. This is also important. I mean, as we have shared that this is not just a health crisis, but a socio-economic crisis, and economic recovery with more, climate-oriented, greener, whatsoever, or maybe more with more attention to the most vulnerable, maybe necessary. But in order to do that, I mean, talking about the credit crime, we have to raise the money. So the trade will be one of the sources for reactivate our economy to bring the sources for that. So what's your thought? His Excellency, Mr. Mishra, you have your idea on that?
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Friends, during this period, last 1 year of Corona pandemic, because I'm new to Development Partnership Administration, so I have been thinking about and contemplating, debating, churning my mind on this. And I see there is for at least for our development partnership, there's a lot of scope for kind of restructuring how we do it. And also that there is considerable potential to make it more impactful, because eventually for the partner country, what matters is not the quantum of money that is invested, but what kind of impact it makes. So I think in the coming months and years, we will see more of India's innovation-driven, innovation-led development partnership. Because India is such a large, diverse, multi-dimensional socioeconomic experience, that there are several models being tried, tested, replicated in different parts of India. And therefore, there is a lot of opportunity for us to share something which is uniquely applicable to, uniquely relevant to one of our partner countries. No solution fits all. So we are in the process of having a more granular understanding of the specific needs of our partner countries, and doing kind of matchmaking of what kind of innovative solution that we have benefited from would be relevant to and more impactful for our friends in other countries. And we are very happy that our Prime Minister Modi, he genuinely has pushed us for innovative solutions, whether it's not just speeding of the processes, but also more technology-led, more innovation-driven socioeconomic transformation. Even in the Atma Bharat mission, like making India self-reliant, I see there are a lot of interesting opportunities for us to share the experience of India, whether it's a fisheries development, or it's a development of agriculture, or it's a restructuring of the small and medium scale, micro scale industries, taking into account maximum availability of local products. I'll be very happy to study more closely India's own broader socioeconomic transformation that is happening. And we'll be very happy and open to sharing those relevant specific solutions to other developing countries. So for India, I see that in future, we'll see more smaller, specific innovation-led interventions in other countries. And also, I sincerely believe that every country, every partner country that we interact with is a unique experience. They have unique issues, they have unique challenges, and also unique wisdom. We need to consult much more those countries. As the chair herself earlier mentioned in the beginning, that the importance of the local ownership. Even we are talking about triangular cooperation, then the two partners can't decide what kind of projects will be implemented in third countries. It's the third countries, they will decide and guide us what they want us to do. A closer granular understanding of the requirements, priorities, and what will work, what will not work in the partner countries is critical. And this is again one area I think DG Forum like this and esteemed friends and colleagues on this panel can play a role, because you may have much more information in some area of your special interest. I may have something about one particular region. The sharing of ideas will be very helpful. And please, if we can minimize the less efficient use of resources, that will be a big takeaway from this crisis. And also, unfortunately, this is a very shocking crisis, but it's not the last crisis that we are facing. So therefore, it's important for all of us to keep the lessons in mind and rework the process, rework the systems, so that we are all better prepared to deal with challenges domestically and also to respond much more effectively with regard to the needs of other friendly countries. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very insightful, and totally agree. Like, closer and Laguna look at and understanding of the issues and matchmaking functions, or the closer consultation between the countries will be more fruitful, and the DG Forum and other existence forum or platform may serve that function. I think that Tariq is at the beginning introduced the Galaxy, and ILO representatives share the meeting point. Those platforms should be fully activated and fully utilized, so that we can reach to the respective regions. Respective issues has a respective platform, so that they can more in detail, technically in detailed experiences and practices or the new knowledges should be shared. And thank you very much. And His Excellency, Mr. Telk, do you have any reflection on the questions, the two questions on the chat?
Thanks so much, Ms. Iwama, for giving me the floor to respond to the questions. What we learned so far from the COVID and the pandemic, I think we rely so much on the use of technology, the use of digital platform to not only to communicate, but also to discuss some issues of common interest, including in the scope of our cooperation is development issues. And I think in addition to the digital fatigue that we experience, to sit in and discuss many issues through a digital platform, but we need to maximize this tool as a means to be more efficient in conducting development cooperations. We see that we never know how long this pandemic will continue to drag us, but it will at least another 2 to 3 years. We will very much guided by the health protocol in our engagement, cross-country engagement, and also on how we can facilitate development and cooperation with other countries. In this regard, at the moment, I think we need to maximize the use of digital platform, but we certainly realize that the level of capacity among countries is very much different. We have the challenge of the digital divide, and therefore this is the time that we need to empower more developing countries or least developed countries to gain some certain capacity. So in the process of facilitating in development efforts, we can utilize the digital mechanism to assist them. At least in the early stage, in the preparation stage, I think we can maximize the use of these tools. And as colleague mentioned early on, we see the importance of the issue of demand refunds from the countries that we want to assist, and also on the issue of ownerships. I think this is the good time to reflect, each of the countries to think back what is the most areas on terms of development most needed in each of the countries. And based on those reflections, other countries can provide support. In the case of Indonesia, we have developed what we call Indonesia's AIDS, just launched last year, in 2019, to serve as a concerted development platform where we can provide assistance, but this is also a need driven. We open to the contribution of the third parties. As we may recall, from early 90s, we are very active in the tripartite system mechanism, and this is also a good time to reflect on how we could maximize the tripartite system in the era of COVID and post-COVID. So I think this is an area that we need to explore together, because COVID limit our capacity to travel to provide assistance. In that regard, we need to empower the countries with the capacity to improve their digital capacity. On the second issues on trades, I think Indonesia is very much in line with the need to continue promoting trade across nations. COVID also impact the robustness of our trade and the means to deliver goods across nations. We face a lot of issues of scarcity of cargo, for instance. This is the challenge affecting all countries, because the volume and the numbers of cross countries means to deliver goods is somewhat decreasing. So at the moment, what we encourage or we empower is intra-trade within the region, perhaps. Within Indonesia, we also encourage cross-province trade, because each area have different goods to offer. It's another aspect that we see important is the role of SMEs. SMEs is the backbone of our economy. In late 90s, when we experienced a financial crisis, the backbone of our economy are the SMEs. But with this COVID-19, the SMEs also greatly affected by the restriction of movement that we apply. So it's a new lesson learned, that how to provide stimulus package from the government to allow the business to continue to move. And that is the reason why we employ a lot of economic policy that's supportive to the business community, and especially is how to ensure that the SMEs will remain economically viable. That is the reason why the government pay close attention to the SMEs and provide a stimulus package so they can continue to produce. And we what they call it, we encourage the government to also cater to the need of the SMEs in terms of acquiring their product, for instance. And there is a lot of mechanism at the stage of trial and error, but in essence is the government try to encourage business to continue to be active. So intra-trade important, but still cross-border trade is even more important. I think I stop there, moderator.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much for highlighting again the importance of the use of the digitalization in the development cooperation. I totally agree that we need to, leverage this COVID-19 crisis. Like, many Asian countries, including my country, has geared towards digitalization, and we have to tap on this, change toward the more betterment of the developing countries, developing cooperation as well, and also the trade. I think Asia, particularly the Southeast Asia, China, Japan, is like also India is very much tied up with the global supply chain, and we are like we share lots in common, and this is the I should say a little difference from other regions, and we need to we need a lot to share so that we can elevate this supply chains, and so that we can better achieve recovery from the COVID-19 in terms of economic development. And thank you very much for raising the issue of the SMEs. I mean, I think that this is also shared by the many countries, including Japan, and many the SMEs are more vulnerable than the other multilateral or big enterprises, and they are the ones who need help, and particularly in the most affected sectors such as tourism and the service sector. And having said that, I would like to turn the mic to the Mr. Tianlin, if you have any response to the questions on the chat.
Thank you. Thank you very much. About the two questions, I think during my presentation, I have already touched on the first one. So I will focus my feedback on the second question, that is something about the trade. Yes, the WTO has advocated the Aid for Trade initiative in 2005. And according to China's experience, we believe that, to promote trade is very important for the post-pandemic recovery for both China and also for other developing countries. But when we are talking about the international development cooperation, from our experience, we believe that we have to do something to help the fellow developing countries to promote their trade abilities. We can do the following things. The first one is try our best to help the fellow developing countries to build their trade-related facilities and infrastructures, such as airports, ports, telecommunication facilities. So this is very important for them. And secondly, we have to help the developing countries to promote their negotiation ability in the framework of WTO. We have some kind of program in helping developing countries to raise this kind of ability. And also through our training courses and technical cooperation, we can help developing countries to promote their trade development ability. This is also important. In China, now we are holding several hundred seminars or workshops related to trade. So we're inviting thousands of people to come to China, before the pandemic, but now we have this kind of training courses and workshops online also. This is still going on. And at the same time, the expansion of a free trade zone is already also a very important part. And at the same time, China has also announced some of the zero tariff policy for African countries and other developing countries. And at the same time, to the provision of some facilities related to customs inspections is also one of our options. At the same time, it is also important to promote to help the developing countries to build their own industrial park or export, processing park. That is also a very important way to help those countries to promote trade. I think I will stop here and thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wang Fen. Would you like to say something?
Thank you. Yeah, similarly, I think my response, the later part of my remarks, I believe addressed mostly the question regarding the post-COVID South-South cooperation and ways to improve, because our next steps, the way we envisage the next, how to take that to a next level is precisely. And I think it echoes a lot of the other points made by the other panelists, that really to maximize existing mechanism, to better match really the offers and the needs, so that it's really demand driven, and that there is greater sustainability in our efforts, and there is more ownership. So definitely that would also lead to more impact. But I think the issue of measuring the impact of South-South cooperation is still something I feel we may need collectively to do more homework on it, because definitely, you know, South-South cooperation, at least for us in our organization, is something so broadly mainstream. It's essentially the way, it's a central modality for our work, and all our thematic divisions. We work across 8 or 9 thematic areas. They all work. I mean, South-South cooperation, it's so deeply, you know, ingrained, embedded in our processes. So it's also a matter of, because when we talk about making sure it's more impactful and measuring impact, it's also very difficult to also define, you know, because it's a matter also of packaging or branding, because everything is, to some extent, it relates to South-South cooperation. So there's a bit of challenge around that if we want to talk about really measuring the impact. But just otherwise, in terms of the question related to trade, I would just highlight the fact that, of course, we have a division at UNESCAP, a whole program, sub-program that works on trade, innovation, and investment. And just wanted to highlight that there is also, we've started last year, we are part of a global initiative towards what we call the post-COVID-19 resurgence of the MSME sector. So that's part of a global development account project that UNESCAP is a part of, and we're working closely with UNCTAD and other regional commission of UNESCAP. Very mindful of the fact that the MSME, although it's the backbone of our societies and economies, they're also on the front line. And as you mentioned, Nozomi and yourself, they're really hard hit, especially in some sectors of the economy. So, and there's also recognition that women-led enterprises are even further affected for multiple reasons. So across the UN response, the different agencies and the issue-based coalition that I was referring to, the issue of MSMEs, support of MSMEs, SMEs and micro, you know, small enterprises is very much front and center, including support to women's entrepreneurship. So I would stop here for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Eleanor Khan, you mentioned about the trade, but do you want to say something about the first questions? I have 2 more questions on the chat, so I have 10 minutes left. So maybe if you respond to the question, and I will ask the two.
Yeah, I would like to respond actually to a point made by Ms. Wan Fen just now about the issue of measurement of the effectiveness of of South-South cooperation and triangular cooperation. From Singapore's perspective, I think just based on the principles of South-South cooperation, which includes basically a respect for a country's national sovereignty and their position and their circumstances in terms of how to implement and to formulate policies that are best suited for their people. From that angle, it makes it quite difficult for say Singapore to claim, or together with our partners to claim that because we ran a program for your country, then we are responsible, or we can claim credit for some impact that has been made in your country. Because I think this is what we do is we share our experience. Our participants draw from that experience, they reflect on their own national circumstances, and then they come up with the policies and how they wish to best implement these policies to suit their population and their country. So I would caution really against coming up with a specific kind of quantitative indicators to measure the impact of South-South cooperation, because it gives the impression that that actors who are offering our assistance are somewhat in a position to claim credit for any of the outcomes. So I would really caution against that view, because we are more humble than that. I don't think that we can claim that we are making that we are doing something that the other country is not able to do for themselves, or not able to figure out in their own time and place. And then I would like to, on the issue of SMEs economic development, Singapore has actually been doing quite a lot to try to support our SMEs to adapt to digitalization. I think this was especially true during our circuit breaker, when everything was closed, and the impact is really felt by the very, very small food stalls, shops, local shops that do not have the capital to run big businesses and to have a large inventory all the time. So what we have done is actually to try to support efforts by our businesses to move onto e-commerce platforms. I think we even support some social media like Facebook. There was a huge group that was in support of hawkers, and to help hawkers to advertise their food and to put them in contact with customers that might want to purchase their food during the circuit breaker. So I think we've done a fair bit that we can share with other countries on how to enable SMEs to adapt to this new digital environment. In terms of the public-private partnership, I think we've also worked and asked private companies as well as NGOs to share how they are working, to share their experience on various different topics. So I would say that public-private partnership is not just the private sector, but it's also the NGOs and the CSOs in the society. And I think we've all found that it really enriches the discussion to have different viewpoints shared by different parts of society, by different stakeholders on different issues. And that is what we've been doing actually to try to, on these issues of economy and trade. Again, we are open to exploring, other partnerships with any of the panelists here, or with other parties to bring capacity building programs to other third countries. I think that's really all I have to say.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kang. I would like to ask one volunteer from the panelists about the question I have here about the public-private partnership. So does anyone have actual practical experiences in engaging with the private sector to mobilize financial resources for the South-South or triangular cooperation? So who would like to kindly volunteer on this?
Sorry, I can volunteer.
Okay, so Ms. Kang, go ahead.
I won't go into specific details, but we did receive a request from a particular developing country for assistance on us in learning more about, say, an investment facility. I think it was a legal issue. And what happened was we found a Singapore company that was based in that country that was interested in offering this kind of training to the government officials of that country. And we basically put them together. So it was a kind of a public-private partnership. And obviously the Singapore company also has an interest in building a relationship with the host government, maybe for a future commercial opportunity. So I think as a government or development agency, you have this opportunity to actually play a broker role between your private sector companies, as well as maybe the recipient countries that have put in requests for specific capacity building on topics that they are interested in.
Thank you very much. So the last question that I have in chat is maybe designated to Ms. Wang Ping or Tariq for the UN agencies. So it says like to build the resilience and increase preparedness, particularly amongst developing countries, greater exchanges and sharing of knowledge, science and technology, financing ICT, digitalization are crucial for developing countries. 4 decades have passed, but many developing countries are still far behind. And in this regard, how can the UN and regional development partners play more constructive and consolidating role to enhance South-South and triangular cooperation in partnership with national governments and private partners? So who would raise hands? So maybe the Ms. Wang Ping?
I was wondering whether Tariq would want to start. But,
okay, the Tariq.
Ms. Wang Ping, if you just, but this later on, it will give me chance to wrap up maybe. Okay. So, but I think.
Yes, so that'll be great.
Yeah,
sure.
We have 3 minutes left. So
I'm just not really sure how I can give a different response from what I mentioned earlier. That's the way we hope to take this forward. I mean, the way I had described it, and ensuring we're really clear also on the capacity in the countries. Even the structure, the composition, how are the South-South cooperation development units, what is the capacity? So maybe through some questionnaire, so that we really know. It would really help for us to better understand some kind of a mapping of the South-South cooperation in the region and the capacity and the needs. So for us, that's how we envisage to take that forward, to maybe working and developing some kind of a questionnaire, so we understand really the needs, the offer as well. So that's why I'm just a bit afraid that I'll be repeating myself. That's how we hope to take it forward, and I really hope that this would answer the concern that I feel expressed. I mean, in that question on how to make it really constructive and ensure that we work closely with national government. So that's how we envisage to take it forward, by really having a kind of a closer mapping and looking some kind of assessment of the needs, of the capacity of the needs, so that we are sure that it really responds to a demand. So that's how I would respond. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tariq. Would you like to add something?
Yes, no, thank you very much, because this is an important question. And I have to say that even during this pandemic, one of the issues that among the issues that were really highly debated is the threat or the risk that posed to multilateralism. And as a UN, what we are trying to do is to promote multilateralism. And I can even say that the DG Forum in itself is one of the platforms of multilateralism, because this is one of the assets of the UN, is that we have this capacity that we call the convening power, that we bring all stakeholders, all partners, and especially countries, so they can have a dialogue with each other, they can share with each other, and most importantly, and this is what we are trying to do also, is how they can catalyze partnerships, how we can catalyze cooperation, how we can catalyze coordination. And we have seen it even with this pandemic, because everybody got to the conclusion that there is no way that we can overcome and exit this crisis if we don't cooperate with each other, if we don't coordinate with each other. And coordination at that time meant, and still means now, that it's not only about member states or countries, but we have to also involve the private sector. We have to involve civil society organizations. You have to involve scientific and research and institutions, because all the contribution of all these actors contributed to the solution of this really daunting challenge. This is an important aspect of the work that the UN is doing, is how we can pool the effort of all in order to find solution collectively. And I think the debate about multilateralism was an important one. And this is what we are trying to promote. And the other aspect is also linked to what we are doing now, and also other platforms that we are servicing, for example, as a UN Office for South-South Cooperation, is about bringing also the actors in order to have policy dialogues and have to have dialogues about policy options. And we have seen that everything starts with an idea. An idea could be translated into policies, and policies could be also translated later on to programs and projects. So there is a why we have also, there is a why, and I was planning in my closing remarks to mention about the high-level committee on South-South cooperation. And when we talk about the high-level committee on South-South cooperation, we are talking about the main policy-making body in the UN. So where all countries and other stakeholders come together, they debate, they dialogue with each other, but most importantly is that they give guidance how to use the modalities of South-South cooperation, triangular cooperation for the benefit of all. Mr. Misha from the beginning was highlighting, for example, triangular cooperation. I think this is one of the most important emerging aspect and elements from the BAPA plus 40. We are trying to promote this type of cooperation. When we are talking about South-South cooperation, it doesn't mean that we have to be close to other modalities of cooperation, because from our side, and we have had so many discussions with so many stakeholders and actors, we take it as a practical and a pragmatic modality that will contribute to the achievement of the SDGs, that will contribute to the achievement of the national development strategy for countries based on the principles of South-South cooperation. And we are talking about the principle of South-South cooperation. The first one is, of course, the principle of ownership, because no development could be achieved without ownership and leadership of the country. I think this is some of the aspects that I would like to highlight, but also let me bring another example that is also for which India is a leader. For example, I think Mr. Misha mentioned that is about the fund that we are managing, South-South Cooperation Fund that we are managing with India, the India Fund, but the other one is the IPSA Fund. This is an important contributor to the achievement of sustainable development goals in so many developing countries. And we have seen the role that these two funds have played even during this pandemic. So, and this is a kind of action, this is a kind of partnership that we are promoting based on the very good examples that I just mentioned. So this is some of the aspects that I want to share with you with regard to the role of the UN. We have also expertise when it comes to the operationalization of program and implementation. But I think when it comes to catalyzing partnership, multilateralism, and policy dialogue in order to come up all together collectively to policies and policy options, effective policy options, I think it is an important aspect of the work of the UN. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tariq. And due to my poor capacity in chairing, I'm running out of the time, and it's over 5 minutes. And in closing, I would like all of the participants to put your camera on so that we can take a photo together. this is a suggestion by our Islamic Development Bank colleagues. So please put your camera on so that they can take photos. And thank you very much again for the my co-organizer, Islamic Development Bank and the UN Office for South-South Cooperation, and also for the distinguished panelists from your sharing insights. And to wrap up, this diverse and rich discussion is a bit of a challenge for me, but let me try. I think we have shared the discussion was more focused on the COVID-19 questions. Given we have given the the guiding questions from the Secretariat, but given the deep impact of the COVID-19 crisis, we have our discussions are more on focused on the COVID-19 issues, and we have share that this crisis is not just a mere health crisis, but it's like socioeconomic and deep into the society. And we thought that this is also a challenge, because we are also trying to cope with respective in-country challenges, but also trying to do something. And we have seen that massive evidences that the panelist has kindly shared, that all countries are trying to do their best to support others. And this is based on the solidarity, and in any form that Tariq mentioned, it's not like just financing or providing of the medical equipments or the vaccines or some knowledge sharing in many forms. And we have an opportunity to elevate this a beautiful and strong partnership into more higher level, as Mr. Mishra has kindly mentioned, that the more consultation and the more discussion in the existing, making use of the existing forum, as well as maybe we may develop a new forum for discussing each respective agendas or the issues, so that we can move forward. And to do this, I think the regional organization like UNESCAP and multilaterals like UN, particularly the UN South-South Cooperation Offices, other colleagues may be the good the facilitator to do so. And we, JICA, is also willing to participate and support as much as we can. So having said that, we would like to close this session with, let us call us a success. And thank you very much for joining, and very glad to meet you and discuss today. Thank you very much, and hope to see you tomorrow night. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Farouk, for supporting.
Thank you.
And the team.
It's our pleasure. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
And a great session. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Maybe just as a reminder, we also have the session today breakout for Africa, Middle East, and Europe, which is also in the agenda. So colleagues can join that at the time indicated in the agenda. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Farouk, for the reminder.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.